it's me, very lovable Susie. God, I would hope so. I'm lovable.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Peanut Gallery. Response. Oh God. For a second there, I was terrified I was going to be by myself. Anyways, tonight I'm going to talk about character stuffs, things that I have, sort of a self-reflection. The past couple of sessions of Serial have gotten kind of heavy, and ultimately what you're supposed to remember is that D&D is fun. So D&D is supposed to ideally be fun. So if at some point you feel like you are not having fun anymore, it's a good time to sort of do some self-reflection and figure out exactly what's happening that's not making it fun anymore. Carolyn, our very lovely DM, was nice enough to send out a character questionnaire to all of us before we started the game, and it sort of helps to serve as a self-reflection, to sort of internalize what you're doing and what you're looking at with your character. So ultimately, again, remember that D&D is supposed to be fun. So if you are not having fun at some point, I usually look at myself first, and I say, okay, what is causing me to not have fun anymore? Is it the way I'm playing my character? Is it my character's personality? Is it the way that my character's interacting with the group? If it's any one of these three things, then that's when it's time to sort of either sit down with the other players, or just sort of bounce ideas even off your fellow teammates out of game, or even in game. So there were times where I felt like I had done something that I thought was absolutely profound and amazing, and upon further reflection, my teammates were like, that was really profound to you? Because it didn't seem like it. So if you feel like you were having this profound moment, sort of, I guess, try and communicate that with the other players. Another thing is to sort of try not to, when you're playing your character, I know it's very easy to just be like, oh, well, let me roll the dice and figure out what I'm doing. But that's not really fun, I guess. So, like, if you're just here to, like, roll dice and sort of, I don't want to say be a dick, but if you're just sort of here to roll dice to try and point your character in a direction, maybe that's not a good thing, and maybe you need to sit down either with your DM or, again, bounce some ideas off your teammates and sort of figure out what exactly you can do to sort of give your character a better sense of direction. What else was I gonna say about that? I had other words about that, but I'm sorry. I've worked like 2 12-hour shifts this week, and I'm sort of still recovering from that, so I'm a little bit tired. But okay. So once you're done with your sort of self-reflection, if you still feel like you're not having fun, that's maybe when it's time to sort of look at something else. So, like, for instance, let's look at the storyline. Are you just having issues with the storyline itself in general? Are you having issues with maybe, is your character not finding enough direction? Or, are you having an issue with the most recent thing that sort of happened in the game? 2 episodes ago in Cyril, Brigitte definitely did not have the best of days. Obviously, yelling at brutalized children is not a good way to start the day. So, like, the session sort of felt very heavy. And I felt like that was definitely affecting Brigitte. So at some point, I spoke with Carolyn and I said, Brigitte's lashing out and it's not good and I don't know what to do to fix it. So she and I sort of had this discussion of, okay, well, what is it about this that's happening? That's, did you do something, is it something that I did? Is it something that, the storyline? So we sort of had a good chat about it. And that's always what you should never really be afraid to have a conversation with your DM about your character and how your character is responding, or even how you are responding. The past couple of weeks, I have not had great weeks, and I feel like that was also sort of coming out in Brigitte as well. So sometimes it's a matter of maybe you need to take a step back, which is perfectly fine. If you have to miss a session to take care of you, that's okay. Self-care is important. Don't feel like you need to continue doing this thing just because everyone else is doing it. That goes for life in general, obviously. But I know with current events that are happening around in the world, maybe you have some personal issues that are coming up. Maybe you have, maybe the news is too much. Maybe something else is happening. But if you feel like you need to take a break, do it. If you need like a weekend off, if you need like 2 weeks off or whatever, take it. Do the things that make you feel better. Go get a mani-pedi, hang out with other friends. Stay under a blanket because the blankets are comfortable and it's fucking cold. You do you, boo-boo. Make yourself feel better, and then if you feel like you're in a better position to come back, then do it. Otherwise, don't be afraid to say, I fucked up and I need to make a new character. Or, because again, sometimes we've made characters that are better story characters than, actual real life D&D characters. Some of the fun of D&D is coming up with a collective backstory. So one of the things that makes life fun about D&D is sort of trying to figure out, how your characters are going to mesh together. So if you've made your character who is like, well, I'm a loner, what's their reason for sticking around with this group and not bolting at the first chance that they get? So if you do have a character who is sort of like, no, I don't like to be in groups and blah, blah, blah. If they've been traveling around with a group for basically several months at one point, your character's going to have to sort of grow and learn and, have those inside jokes or those inside moments. So just remember that your character is not static and you are God of your character. Obviously your DM is actual God of the game, but you are the player controlling your little sim character, basically. We've been playing a lot of The Sims, and I'm not ashamed, because it's a great game and hilarious. But remember, you are God of your character, and you can make them change. Like, don't pull that line of, oh, that's what my character would do. If your character would run away again after they've been traveling with a group for several months and the group has not given him not given them sort of any pause to, or any reason to run off, then, maybe your character needs to grow up. Maybe your character needs to learn that, groups are not the worst thing in the world. So it's just, again, remember your characters are not static and you as a person are not static either. You do have the opportunity to grow and learn to love and accept friendship, even when it's forced upon you. So the character survey that Carolyn had sent to us has a lot of good questions on there. One of them being, why are you playing this game and are you enjoying it? So I play D&D because I like to have that narrative combat story. I like doing the role-playing. So that's why I started playing D&D, is because it was a way for me to not only sort of be someone else for a little bit, but also allowed me to, have some control over the story. Video games are one sort of thing, and we here in this house, my God, we love BioWare, but my God, some of their dialogue choices are freaking terrible. So, like, even if you pick the sarcastic option, it can come out as something completely different, and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted it to say. And in D&D, you still have more of that choice of, you know, well, I'm going to RP that I said this. And then your DM could be like, okay, well, are you doing it suavely? Yes, I am. Cool, roll me a charisma check. And then it's sort of more fun of, you know, how well do you do on your charisma check? Not necessarily the game being, not necessarily a video game where it's like, nope, insufficient skill, you can't do this just yet. The next question that's on the character sheet is, are you participating fully? I know for myself, I am sometimes very bad at not being fully present. Even if it's a scene that I'm not involved in, I guarantee you can see it on stream that I'm doing something with my phone. It's one of the things I'm trying to work on. I'm very much addicted to my phone. I'm doing this right now with my hands because I can't have my phone because it's over there. So I told myself I wouldn't do that in stream right now. So just trying to keep my hands occupied, trying to keep myself fully involved in the scene. And fully involved basically in the moment of what's happening. Because even if you're not there, even if your character is not there, depending on the type of scene, you can sort of still have that participation moment. It could be something dramatic where, you know, maybe, you know, going back to one of our scenes when we were in Cinnabar, when MA and myself were trying to hide in an alleyway, and we just all inspected the alleyway because why not? You still had the other two people, you know, harping on us going, why are you checking this alleyway? What are you doing? And that can sort of make for some really great inside jokes. So, and it's funny moments like that that break up sort of the monotony of, you know, other people. So even if you're not, like, harping on the other people, even if you're not, like, making, you know, even if you're not involved, you can still be in the moment with them. And it gives your DM other people to play off of, too, because you could say something and your DM's like, oh, that's perfect, I'm going to use that for an NPC line. So just try and make sure that you are fully participating. And for some reason, if your attention has to be divided on the occasion, that's fine. I understand people do have lives. But it's one of those things where if you can't fully, I don't want to say if you can't fully commit, don't be there, but if you can't fully commit, then I don't want to say try and remove yourself from the situation either, but, you know, if you can't fully commit, just be aware of what you are doing, and again, try and participate as much as you can. The next question that was on here, it says, are you talking openly and honestly with your fellow players and DM? Honesty is a very big part of playing D&D. So again, sort of, like, I don't want to necessarily go back to the pulling the asshole moment of that's what my character would do. Just make sure that you are being open and honest with your fellow players. Because you can talk, before you do something, feel free to talk it out. Because if your instinct is to, well, I'm going to rush into battle and start this fight, it's sort of one thing to do that in a video game. It's another thing to do it entirely when you have other people in the room that are invested in their characters that maybe don't want to start this fight. So feel free to be in character saying to the other players, hey guys, my first instinct is to rush into this battle. I feel like that, like, is, what do you guys want to do? Because you as players can talk about something, but if you're not talking about something in character, it sort of makes the difference. In one of the D&D games we played, we had a symbol for when we were speaking out of character, which was fingers crossed like this, and we would hold up our hands and say, out of character, and then we'd state our piece and do whatever. But if we were talking, but unless we did that, everything that we did was assumed to be talking in character. which sort of helped build our rapport with everybody else in the room. So if you have to come up with an out of game, like, thing, even if it's just everybody puts their hands up and says, okay, out of game, what the hell are we doing right now? We're about to go into a fight with 50 kobolds, and what the shit, y'all? Then that's a good thing to have. Because if you feel like you can't have that open and honest communication with either your DM or the other players, that's definitely something to consider. I know it's hard to have those sorts of conversations, but sometimes the best way to do it is to just blurt it out. Carol has been the receiving end on some of that with me, where I'm just like, I feel like this! And I just vomit out everything that I'm feeling, and she's like, okay, I need you to repeat that calmly and slowly. And then I'm like, okay, one more time. Here we go. Thoughts and feelings. Sometimes it also helps if you're not if you don't really feel like you can vocalize it. Sometimes it also helps to just dump it all out on paper or in a Word document. Like, get all your feelings out about how you're feeling about whatever, and then maybe maybe it'll help you organize your thoughts a little bit better. So again, open, honest communication is always a good thing to have, and if for some reason you feel like you can't have that, that's something you either need to bring up with your DM or talk to the other players about. So that's a thing. The next one that is are you helping to drive the narrative, or are you hindering the narrative? D&D is very much a group project, so I understand if people want to sit back because they are new. However, if you do have new players in your group, especially with us, we can definitely be very overwhelming people. Are you looking for the large cat? She's right here. She just ran past you as you stood to get up. Large cat's being an asshole tonight, y'all. It's fun. Yelling at counters, trying to get up on shit. She's great. And by great, I mean terrible. So, helping or hindering the narrative. Going back to just making rolls just to see how that would drive your character is not exactly the best way to build your character, I feel. That sort of really annoys me when you're just like, well, I'm going to let the dice decide. That's not really great. You really need to have more control over your character and have more control over, again, you are God and your character is your sim, and you could make them do whatever the fuck you want. Also, hindering the narrative, again, is if you're not fully participating. If you're sort of just going with the flow of the group, that's not exactly the best thing. Again, if you feel like you can't really, if you're having trouble speaking up or having trouble getting your ideas across, that may be something to bring up with either your DM or another player if you're more comfortable. I understand that not everybody's comfortable with talking straight to their DM, but it's definitely something that you can talk about with another player. So again, don't be afraid to talk to the other players as well. You don't have to bring all of your things to the DM. Sometimes your conflicts can be resolved just by talking to another player. But make sure that you are, again, helping to drive the narrative always is also sort of ties back to, are you being present and in the moment? You want to make sure that you are there and helping to drive the story along. Helping to drive the story along doesn't necessarily mean yes, I will do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. But you want to make sure that you are, helping to drive your character. That sort of made no sense, I feel like. Let's rephrase. Hold on. Gotta think this one out. You want to make sure that the great thing about D&D is that the narrative can go any direction. Much to your DM's chagrin. Much to your DM's chagrin, the narrative can go any way, shape, or form. So you guys could get to the town, then your next destination, and you could just be like, you know what? You know that plot point we were supposed to go do? Nah. shopping episode. And then everybody can turn it into a shopping episode. And that's fine. But you're helping to drive the narrative. You're helping to do something. If your character's not really doing much, then you're not really helping to drive the narrative. You're not really doing anything. And that's really hard for other people to also play off of and deal with. I understand that our group can be very rambunctious, and we can be probably very intimidating for a lot of people. We are talkative, we are chatty, we are excitable. We're basically like puppies and or foxes, depending on how you look at it. But don't be afraid to speak up and bring your ideas. Or say, hey, this isn't something I want to do. Everybody else is going to go look at weapons. I want to go look at a bookshop. Or I want to go to the town square and stare at the fountain and people watch. You could do that too. You could even just be like, you know what? I'm going to go find an empty park bench. I'm going to go sit there and I'm going to go judge people. That's fine. Go judge people. Who knows what you're going to find? Maybe you'll find your villain. Maybe you'll find the person you're looking for. Who knows? But you won't know unless you try. So even if the whole group is in a town wanting to do something, or everybody has their own ideas of what needs to happen next, that's fine. You are always more than welcome to have other ideas and go against the group as long as you are participating. I know participation, I keep harping on participation, but again, D&D is a group project and a collaborative story. So if one person's not telling their story, it's really hard to, say what we're missing from your character. Because I need you to help me tell your story. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story. That sort of thing. Yeah. That there was a point I brought that up.
I love that song. It's so sad.
So the last question on here is, are you being considerate to your fellow players and DM? You definitely do want to make sure that when you are playing D&D that you are taking into consideration the rest of the group. So if you get to a scene where something makes you uncomfortable, say it. Say it either in character, even if your character isn't there. You as a player are. Unless you have the DM has a private scene, you are there. Feel free to, speak up and say, no, I am not cool with this. This needs to stop. Or we need to change the narrative some other direction because I am not okay with this. But on the flip side, if your group wants to do, you need to make sure that you are also being considerate of the group itself. So what's a good example of this? We really haven't had many examples of this, but of being considerate. Because generally most of our people are considerate. But,
I think it's more like the way I intended the question to be for clarification. Was that...
Please tell us more. I say as you're not even on camera right now.
Embodied voice! Disembodied voice. Was that it was more like things that you're doing while others are playing that may be distracting. That kind of thing.
Yeah, so that sort of, again, goes back to, making sure you are in the moment. Making sure that you're staying off your phone as much as you can. I understand, and I think all of us here understand that people have lives outside of D&D, and people have emergencies that come up. So if you have to have your phone nearby and, have the ringer on so you're anticipating a phone call, if you're anticipating an important message coming through, that's fine. But if you're on your phone and you're just checking your email and refreshing your Facebook page, checking your Tumblr, looking at Twitter, going to Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, that's not really being considerate. You want to make sure, again, that you are here and you are present and you can be not necessarily an emotional support for your other players, but that you are. Again, it's hard to improv with someone else if the other person is not participating. In larger groups, it's very, very, very easy for you to be able to slip into something and not pay attention. And in smaller groups, it definitely is very obvious when you are not paying attention. You don't necessarily have to have 100% of your focus on the game at all times, but you do need to make sure that you are, you know, if you need to pop on your email, if you need to check your email, you know, once an hour or whatever, you know, do it as quick as you can. Look for what you need to look, and then close it up again. Again, that's why my phone is over here and not with me, because otherwise I'd be fiddling with it, and instead I'm just fiddling with my shirt. It's fine. In our game, we actually did have to sort of institute the no electronics unless you're using, you know, D&D Beyond, or in one actual game, in like 2 games ago, we actually did force ourselves to sort of use paper character sheets, because we just decided electronics were too distracting. So I might be switching to using paper, for my own sake, that I'm using a paper character sheet, because that's going to be a little bit easier than trying to fiddle with D&D Beyond all the time. Not to say that D&D Beyond isn't a great tool, but it's very easy for me to be like, oh, how do I do this again? Oh, hey, look, this other page on the internet. Let me go do 15 other things first. And then I get back to D&D Beyond, and it's like, what was I doing? Oops. So, just sort of making sure that you're there and you're present is sort of what this all boils down to. And if you're not, try and look at yourself and see what's happening. And if you don't think it's you, look at the group. Again, maybe it's something in the group is not jiving with you, something in the story is not jiving with you, something in the overall arcing story may not be jiving you. And again, don't be afraid to talk it out with your fellow players, your DM, just to sort of figure out, you know, maybe what's happening. And if it turns out you made the wrong character for this group, but you really like playing this character, that's cool. Personality change time. Have your character grow. Your character is not a static person. Your character will have feelings and emotions, and they're going to experience things which will cause them to change. So if you're playing this character as completely static, that's not a great thing, and maybe you need to talk with your DM, and maybe you need to have, you know, a one-on-one roleplay session with them to figure out, or maybe even a one-on-one talk to figure out sort of what's happening and how you can sort of fix this. It's kitty cat zoomy time, so if you hear the little okay then. Sorry, it was kitty cat zoomy times, and somebody lost her goddamn mind. So, yeah, just remember your characters are not static, and they will change, and they will grow. So you just need to make sure that you are remembering that as a player. That's about all I've got. Do we have any questions in chat so far?
Mm-mm.
Nope. It's been real quiet.
It's been quiet, just no questions.
No questions? I feel like I've been missing a ridiculous conversation. No ridiculous conversations either? Shock and awe, y'all. Shock and awe. Anyways, so if you feel like you have made the wrong character, or if you just want to sort of not necessarily burn it all down and start a new life elsewhere, talk to your DM about introducing a new character. Or even temporarily playing someone else. Because if you're not having fun, and it's not you, and it's not the group, maybe it's your character. Maybe you need to make something else. Or someone else. Maybe you need to play a different character for a little bit and see if that's the issue. Maybe you need to even take a break from playing your current character. Let them go off and have an adventure somewhere else and continue on with your group as a new character. That is entirely a possibility. Just again, remember, if you're not having fun, fix it. You have these options of what you can do. And if your DM's like, no, I want you to play this character, that's fine. Death March. Don't actually Death March your character. Which is basically throwing them into danger as much as you possibly can. Anyways, well, if there are no more questions, or any questions at all, I'm going to wrap it up for the evening. Did a question come through? Nope? Okay. I'm gonna wrap it up for the evening because I hurt a lot. We don't have Turricell this week.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And we also do not have Tales from Cyril this week, so this is going to be our only video.
We might do a surprise Conjuration one, but it'll be a surprise.
We might do a surprise something at Conjuration, but that's going to be a surprise if that even happens. So, supplies! We'll see what happens. If we do anything for Conjuration, it'll probably be like, what, Saturday or Sunday? Surprise!
It'll be an absolute surprise
It'll
to
be
everyone involved.
This is going to be great.
Including you, Internet.
Including everybody.
You'll just get a notification that we're live.
And it'll be great.
Maybe a tweet or two.
It's going to be so much fun.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yep. DM chats next week on Wednesday. We will be back. Next Saturday is supposed to be Tales from Cyril, but I believe we are canceling that due to the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're going to maybe be doing something else. ? And River of Turricell that Sunday is also canceled. No, we are having River of Turricell next Sunday. So this week, a little bit weird. Next week, however, we will be back with DM chats, a Saturday special of some sort, and then River of Turricell again. We will resume pretty much after the Thanksgiving holidays. Oh, Thanksgiving. Don't you glare at me, Tiny Cat. Alright, so this is me. I'm going to be signing off for the evening. So hopefully we will see you guys next week and or at our surprise stream. Whenever that might happen. So, good night, Internet.